Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the best Marvel movies of all time. In my opinion, I can only tell you from my perspective which are the best Marvel movies I see of all time. I'll give you the best five, and then I'll give you some of the other movies which I thought should be made mention in that whole thing. So let's get into it. The first Marvel movie of all time, which I find my best, the number one Marvel movie of all time for me, is Marvel's Spiderman with Tobey Maguire. I thought that movie was fantastic. Not everybody agreed because it had a sad ending and it had a lot of sad things about it. But obviously, I think that Tobey Maguire did an excellent job with that Spider-Man, and I liked the story a lot. Not only that, but I also liked the design of the film. It was very comic booky. It kind of felt surreal. It kind of felt like a comic book. And the story felt real and grounded, but yet at the same time, you could see the caricatures. You could see the sort of almost CGI, and it was cool. It was like, that's its world, you know? So I was willing to accept it. It was the first of its kind to do that. And also the little Marvel logo with the stuff sort of coming out in the front, you know, all that comic stuff. This was the first film to do that. It was groundbreaking. Loved it. I still think that is the best Marvel movie of all time. Second in that list, I am a Captain America fan, so I will be a bit biased. Captain America, the first Avenger. To me, Chris Evans really made his mark with this movie. I love the CGI that they did in this movie to do his body over, make him look small, make him look like a sort of weak dude, but he had so much heart. And I thought this was an excellent movie, and therefore that is my second best Marvel movie of all time. Third best Marvel movie of all time, how can we not mention Blade? Blade changed the dynamics. It was a rated R Marvel movie. It changed the dynamics of how people looked at comic book movies. And what I loved about Blade was the story that was being told. This guy who's a vampire slayer, but he himself is almost part vampire and fighting against the demons inside of him to be one fully. My fourth Marvel comic book movie of all time is X2, XMen United. Nightcrawler's work in there, where he was teleporting and so on, was just wonderful. It was wonderful to see the different skill sets of the mutants. We still had that overlay where, you know, you have Magneto, you had Professor X, and they still had their conflicting ideologies about how humankind would accept the mutants. I thought this is still one of the best X-Men movies out there. It topped the first X-Men movie, which was X-Men, and it really took the bar up. But X-Men after that couldn't really maintain that bar, but it was, I think, one of the best X-Men movies out there to date. Captain America the Winter Soldier must be made mention. Captain America the Winter Soldier was a follow-up of Captain America the First Avenger, in which we started seeing Scarlett Johansson's playing the role with Captain America, a sort of bond, a relationship she was kind of forming with him. And we also see him become a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. I thought this was very awesome, and I like that the antagonist of the film ends up being sort of an anti-hero. There was just a lot of firsts in this movie. Thumbs up to Captain America the Winter Soldier. That is my fifth best comic book Marvel movie of all time. Now, a special mention must be made of X-Men The Last Stand. I love the ending. It was not what we expected, and that's what I like with movies. You don't have to be predictable all the way to the end. I loved it. Great stuff. Great ensemble movie. Iron Man. First of its kind to do what it did, where the superhero reveals his secret identity. And though this was mostly about Iron Man, how he made his suit, it's an origin story. It was still one in which we had never seen a superhero quite like Tony Stark's, that depiction of him on the screen, as well as just his character and even the surrounding characters of the movie. Basic story, but nonetheless, it was a first of its time. Gotta mention it. The Wolverine. The Wolverine was very, very intense in terms of the training that was put into this movie. I think Hugh Jackman did a ridiculously fantastic job. He was in impeccable shape for this movie. And even though I expected him to become more gruesome than he was, I still wasn't disappointed in the movie. Really enjoyed it. The Wolverine is one of those top tier X-Men movies. X-Men Days of Future Past, one of the better X-Men movie storylines and story arcs that takes you back into time. There's some time travel in it. Liked it. The stakes that were called into play in this movie. Really enjoyed the movie a lot. I think it's one of the pinnacle X-Men movies. I will say though, X-Men Apocalypse, in my opinion, is much more, shall I say, epic than X-Men Days of Future Past. But even so, I think X-Men Days of Future Past was one of those more pinnacle X-Men movies. Now, if you agree with me, great. Leave that in the comment section below. If you disagree with me, please mention the comic book movies that you think are supposed to be the top 5 best comic book movies. I'll also put the top 5 that I have in the description below for you guys to comment about. Until then, you guys have a great one. I'll give you my top 5 DC movies in a minute.